Tired of only having 8 gigs free on your Xbox? Today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to swap out a newer, nicer hard drive for your old one. Welcome back to another episode of All Things Modded, where today we're going to be installing a newer, better hard drive into our original Xbox. Just a heads up, this modification does require you to open up your Xbox. Also, we're going to need quite a few tools for this video. So, for starters, of course, we're going to need our newer hard drive that we want to install. I'm going to be using a Seagate 160GB hard drive that I took out of an old PC. We're also going to be needing a way to power that, so you can be using a old PC power supply. You can also use another Xbox if you have one lying around. Finally, we're going to be needing a Torx 10 screwdriver, a Torx 20 screwdriver, and just a regular Phillips screwdriver. Okay, so now that we've gone over the overview, let's hop right into it. So, first thing we want to do is turn on our Xbox and establish an FTP. FTP stands for File Transport Protocol, and basically what you can do by this is transfer data from your computer to your Xbox. You can use a crossover cable, or you can set up a local network via a virtual network, or using a router like I have. So as you can see, I have my IP address down in the lower right hand corner. Now this is never going to be your actual IP, this is just your local network IP. So just keep in mind that IP address that you have and write it down on a piece of paper, because we're going to need that later. Now the next thing you want to do is go down to System and then Settings, and then go down to Network. And as you can see, it lists your IP address again at the top, but what we're really concerned about is the FTP server settings. So if it's not already enabled, enable FTP server, and then your username and password default is always going to be Xbox. Don't change that stuff. Same with the port, keep it 21, you don't want to change it. It just makes things a lot easier. So now that we've done this, let's run back over to the computer. Okay, so now that we're at our computer, we want to download two things. We want something to where we can transfer data from our PC to our Xbox and our Xbox to our PC. I use Flash XP, but that's just me. Other people use different programs. I can list a few down in the description. Flash XP you'll have to pay for in the end, or you can probably bypass that, but I'm not going to show you guys how to do that. And next you'll need the chimp files so that you can upgrade your hard drive. So once you download these two, you just want to double click on the chimp files and drag the ePartition to your desktop. And then once you do that, just open up Flash XP. Go ahead and hit accept and close that. So now what you want to do is you want to finish a connection to your Xbox so you can transfer data. So just go up to this right box and hit the dual monitor icon and hit quick connect. Now this is where you put the IP address that was on your Xbox, and then keep your port at 21 or whatever port was on your Xbox, and then username and password are simply going to be Xbox. Then you can go ahead and connect. So now we just want to open up our ePartition, and then we're going to go over here to the left side. We're going to go to our parent directory, go to our desktop, and we're going to locate the ePartition. So now we're just going to basically drag over what's needed to be over here. So as you can see, there's already an apps folder. So what we do is we open up the apps and also open up the apps on the Xbox and just drag it over. Now click parent directory again, and same with the Xbox, and just drag the Linux and the chimp files and put them over here. And that is basically it for the computer side. You can go ahead and disconnect and you're ready to go. Okay, so now that we're back at the Xbox, you can go ahead and set up your hard drive. You can use the PSU from an old computer and short circuit the cable using the green and one of the ground wires, which is typically the black one, to the left of it, but that doesn't always work. So I have mine hooked up completely to my computer, and then I have that outputted to my hard drive, because when I did it with the PSU, while it did turn on, it didn't function properly and the hard drive started making clicking noises. And I'd also like to apologize, I cannot use the game capture card for the screen right now, because when you do the Linux update or whatever, the upgrader, I mean, it messes with the screen res, and this is the only way I can do it right now. So you can go ahead and go to applications, and before we start Linux, I want to give you guys a couple warnings. You need to use a first-party Microsoft controller, and you cannot have any card or memory cards in the card slots on that controller, because it will mess with the installer and it won't work for you. While I do say first party, that also means the wireless controller that was released by Microsoft, you can't use that. It has to be strictly the wired ones. So now we can go ahead and run Linux. Now this is a good time to turn on the power supply to your hard drive, and you don't want to wait too long without touching anything, like moving these with the D-pad, because it will launch an application automatically. So now that we've turned on power to the hard drive, you can go ahead and pull out the IDE cable from the disk drive and plug it into the hard drive. Now you have to plug it in and unplug it all at once, otherwise you can run into some problems and you'll have to restart. So I'm going to go ahead and get right into it. So now I have my hard drive plugged in to the data receiver on the IDE cable. So now I can go ahead and hit FATX. Depending on what your screen res is, will depend on which you pick. So you can just go 480 to be safe. Now this screen is going to give you a bunch of errors and failed to allocate stuff like that. Don't worry about that, just let it run its course. And you can go ahead and hit A, and now we're going to scan physical IDE devices, and if all went well, you should get your HDA and your HDB. Now your HDB is the new hard drive and your HDA is the old one. So you can exit, and now we're going to clone from master to slave. And go ahead and hit exit. This is basically the same screen that it was showing you for the scan. Go ahead and hit yes. This is just telling you that it's going to reformat the hard drive, and everything off that new hard drive that you're going to be putting is going to be erased. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and hit what is it? So we're gonna do full disk byte by byte, and how you select that is you hit right, or you hit your right analog stick and hold down that until you hear a click, and then it should fill in the blank. Then you can go ahead and hit A. You can go ahead and hit blind, but for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to be hitting periodically. You can hit blind, but for the purpose of this video, I'm going to hit periodically. So now it's done, and what we're going to do is select lock slave drive, and then we're going to click on from motherboard, and then just hit yes. And depending on how big your drive is, you might have to go to format extended partitions on master drive. You don't always have to do that, but sometimes you do. So what I just did there was the space under 137 gigabytes or up to 137 gigabytes is going to be stored on my F partition, while the rest of the memory is going to be stored on the G partition. So that's going to be a little less because I'm using a 160 gig hard drive. So now you can just go ahead and hit OK. And so now what you want to do is, after you format your extended partitions, you just want to go down to shutdown, and that is basically it. So once you put your hard drive back in and lock everything up, you can go ahead and turn on your system, and as you will see, there's quite a bit of difference in my F partition. I have almost 145 gigs free. So now that we've seen that and everything, we can go ahead and put the console back together. So that is it for this tutorial. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. Also, please leave a like, it really helps the channel, and as always, see you next time.